What's up, guys? Just a random guy here giving his thoughts on Bethesda and their games. Specifically, why I'm worried for The Elder Scrolls 6. Just let it be known that this isn't a Doom Post type of situation. It's my actual thoughts put together and what I've been seeing when it comes to Bethesda and Microsoft. Really, a lot of AAA companies. All of this is coming from a young man's perspective in his mid-20s. So here it is. Let's start off with my history with Bethesda and their games, just to give some context to my background and why I feel the way I feel. I'll start off briefly by saying I have played Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4, and I do like those games a lot. But Skyrim will always be my favorite, because I love fantasy medieval settings with magic and shit. To say I love Skyrim is an understatement. It is my favorite game of all time, and to prove it is that I'm making a video because of it. Why I'm worried for the next entry. It's been so long since we've had another entry. I'm worried about it because of how the company is now. Anyway, my first time playing Skyrim was when I was a teenager. Well, when I was barely becoming a teenager. I got interested because I heard it was an open world game and it was a fantasy setting. And it intrigued my little kid brain for some reason. I still remember when I first played the game, I thought that orcs looked really cool. But I didn't know there was magic in this game. And as soon as I found out there was magic, I was a battle mage wearing heavy armor and casting spells as an orc. I just find it funny now, thinking back on it, because my brain is now telling me that really doesn't make any sense when it comes to racial class and build, even though you can make it work. Anyway, from there on, I pretty much played the game consistently throughout my whole life. I started off on the 360, then to the PlayStation 4, then to Xbox One, and 10 years later, I'm on PC now. And recently, I've been thinking, why do I always come back to the game? What makes Skyrim still so fun to play, besides mods? I will say this, everyone has a different reason for coming back to a game. Hell, I know some people still play Morrowind and the OG Oblivion. I have tried those games, but I could never get into them because of how dated they looked and felt to play. And the bottom line is what makes a good Bethesda game is up to the player. Everyone has their own reasons on why which game is the best to them. I never really played this game for the combat. It's mid at absolute best. The reason why I play this game still is because of the beautiful open world, sandbox type of formula that they got with the handcrafted world that feels real and immersive. I remember whenever I learned more about the lore and other places of Tamriel, I would go to the edge of the map and look into the distance and imagine, wow, Morrowind is right over there, or just over this mountain is a whole nother province. I wonder what's going on over there right now. I did the same when I played the Oblivion remaster. I went north to the mountains, and I looked off into the distance, and I was like, damn, Skyrim is just right there. And I would just stare in the distance, and just got this feeling like no other game could. The other reasons why I play this game is because of the dungeons. Dungeons are unique, they're fun, and there's loot at the end of them. I fucking love that. It's fun. And I also love the type of roleplay you can do in your head when it comes to skills and classes, or even if your character is racist or not. Fuck yeah. And of course, the most appealing and fun thing that tickles my brain is the world building. This is why I come back to Skyrim. Of course, I will state this. I don't think I could ever go back to vanilla Skyrim after playing it modded. There's just so many great mods that make the game feel fresh, and I still get that feeling of when I first played the game. With their other games like Fallout, I can never go to the same extent of how I feel like I can with Skyrim. Not to say I didn't have a lot of fun with those games, just not as much. So now that I'm done giving my thoughts and a little bit of my background, why am I worried about the Elder Scrolls 6? Well, there's a few reasons. Number one is definitely the track record. No matter if you do or do not like Starfield, I would argue it's the Bethesda's weakest game, besides 76. But we're going to pretend that game doesn't exist. Also because it's an online game. Same with Elder Scrolls Online. I tried both those games, could never get into them because that's not why I play Bethesda games. And it just doesn't interest me in general. So with Starfield, it takes out what they are good at, which is a handcrafted world that feels immersive and alive. The amount of loading screens does not help that fact. I played Starfield for a couple of hours, but that is all I needed to know what kind of game it was. Their games are not deep on a foundational level, and I will get into that in a second. I know people will say that's not enough time to get a good idea of a game. It is. For Bethesda's games, yeah, it really is. The same criticisms that people had online, I already knew I wasn't going to like the game, but I still wanted to give it a shot just to see if I was wrong. And I know it's not going to get any better. I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, well, that's just one aspect. What about the other things you mentioned earlier, like why you love Bethesda games? Yeah, you take that one thing out, it completely ruins everything else. Sorry, but if I'm walking around on an empty planet, and it takes me 5 minutes to walk to an outpost on an empty planet, and the outpost itself is the only custom-built thing made by the devs, how the hell is that fun? I could get into a lot more on why I don't like Starfield, but that's a whole video in itself. I was just explaining why I could not get into the game. It's just so bland without the handcrafted world, and it's procedurally generated. I mean, if someone from Bethesda comments on one of the Steam reviews gaslighting customers that walking on an empty planet is fun, then you know something is wrong with the game fundamentally. I'm not necessarily worried about Elder Scrolls 6 because of Starfield itself. Not fully, at least. They still have outdated designs that other games have done better. I just feel like they're not caught up with the modern standards of RPGs. But even then, I think that's fine to a degree. Like fetch quests, for example. I know a lot of people don't like them. But with Skyrim, it's the exception. The world itself makes you want to explore. The fetch quests is just a cherry on top, and you're also getting rewarded. I did mention earlier that for Skyrim, the world building was one of my favorite aspects of the game. I know Starfield is a new IP and the world building takes time. But the game is so fucking boring, I don't care. Elder Scrolls is an established franchise. If they take what works in Skyrim and make it better and bigger, with of course new mechanics and gameplay stuff to the game, it should be alright at the very least. I mean, that's all I'm asking for personally. I don't expect a ton of innovation in the next Elder Scrolls, even though it's been 15 years since we had a last entry. I learned with video games that keeping expectations low will make the game more fun. I mean, look at No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk. Those games set hella expectations, and they fell short immensely for a lot of people. Comparison is always a losing battle. Every game has their strengths and weaknesses. Bethesda never really excelled at storytelling, for example, like Baldur's Gate 3. Which is why I'm trying to keep realistic expectations when it comes to the next entry. I don't expect a ton in general. I honestly feel like with how many mods there is with Skyrim, I feel like people will have unrealistic expectations. Do not do that to yourself. You will only be disappointed, even though Todd Howard, the guy himself, said it would be the ultimate fantasy simulator. Don't let him do that to you. Another reason is the team size, and Microsoft being the parent company. Too many cooks in the kitchen doesn't mean better. Time and time again with these big AAA companies and games come out, the creative vision isn't there, deadlines forcing the game to come out early without proper bug fixing and polish, things constantly getting scrapped because of feature creeps from other departments, and so on. I remember watching an interview on the making of the OG Oblivion. They had it to where people will just make whatever they want and they can put it into the game. No need for that middleman waiting for approval BS. I mean, I get it. It's a big company. But that's the problem. It takes forever to get approval. My man Timothy Kane, who worked on Fallout and the Outer Worlds, explains how much the culture inside has changed when it comes to game development. It's a really good video, and I recommend watching it to give you some insight on why games take so long to make and very interesting other facts. I'll link that in the description. A very popular opinion is about the engine itself. People don't like the creation engine because it's old and feels clunky, even in Bethesda's newest games. It's been updated over time, but you still get the stiff animations, awkward NPCs, janky combat, and plenty of bugs compared to other modern RPGs. It just feels dated. The engine's big strength is that almost every object in the world has physics and stays where you leave it, which makes the game feel like a giant sandbox. But that also means more glitches, floating items, and ragdoll chaos. And of course loading screens. Some players love the freedom, others think it's just outdated tech that Bethesda refuses to let go. I'm with the former stance. I really don't mind if they keep using the engine. I get why people don't like it. But let's be honest, people play their games because of the mods. The creation engine is very modifiable, and there's just a lot you can do with it. But that goes into our next topic, the one I genuinely hate and despise. The Creation Club. Man, I cannot stand the Creation Club. It takes one of the best things about Bethesda games, free mods made by passionate fans, and shoves it behind a paywall. Mods used to be this pure thing made out of love for the game, no strings attached. Then Bethesda rolls in and says, hey, let's sell you stuff you've basically been getting for free for years. It's not even big expansions or anything. It's tiny bits of content you can grab from Nexus in like 5 minutes. It feels like they gutted the heart of the modded community just to make a quick buck. It's the exact opposite of what makes these games special in the first place. So, I found a mod on Starfield. It's just simply called Gear Progression. This mod is what inspired me to actually make a video and gather my thoughts on what I thought about everything. Before doing research, I thought it changed how loot tables worked in the game and made it more rewarding. As if the base game wasn't rewarding enough or something like that. But reading and looking into the information, it fundamentally changes how the gear works in the game. So it really isn't a fix, but it's an alternate leveling progression system. So why did this bother me? Simple. This leaves the door open for Bethesda to leave things out on purpose in the next game. Real quick, this mod is 300 credits, which is $3, but can only be bought with a $5 purchase, of course. So cool. Maybe you want to try this new progression system. It sounds like a cool idea for some people. I know some people are going to say, it doesn't matter, you can ignore it. Yeah, and look where we're at right now. Look what happens when you ignore things and let them keep going further with this bullshit. It's only going to get worse, and people are going to keep accepting. This really bothers me, because who's to say they'll stop there? Why wouldn't they go a step farther and probably sell you like a system or mechanic completely separate than what they intended to be in the base game? You can argue that they can do that with DLC as well, but we're talking about minuscule mods that they sell for a couple of bucks. If you played their other games with Creation Club content, you would know that it is very amateurly done and forced in. There's no voice acting. It's pieces of paper or text, and that's it, with some weapons or armor. What's to say that they wouldn't do this in the next Elder Scrolls? What if they didn't add one of the Daedric artifacts and instead sold it to you in the creation store? It's a small thing, sure, but you can't tell me they didn't do that on purpose to get a few extra bucks off of you. So, how far will they go with this? I'm afraid to figure that out. I don't want to think about it, but I know it will get worse because companies are all about unending growth. They will do whatever it takes to make more money, especially since Microsoft is over Bethesda now. There is no limit on the greed. Alright, and into the finale. I would like to call it the most contentious one. DEI. Listen, I hate when people see a black man or a woman on screen and say it's DEI. I mean, look at what people did with Siri in The Witcher 4. People call that shit DEI. That is the most brain rot, you live in your mom's basement energy. It's not like CDPR reached inside their asshole and yanked out Siri and said, yeah, we can make this work. Let's put a woman in the game. Siri is going to be the main character. We don't know the story and how she became the Witcher, since she has to do the trial of Brassus to become a Witcher. I'm not going to get into that. Literally no one knows the story and how she became a Witcher. I'm excited to find out though, but that is not DEI, okay? That is stupid. Whenever I say DEI, I think of forced narratives and inclusive decisions inside of video games that have nothing to do with the video game itself. That is the shit I hate. I despise it so fucking much. It's putting a restriction on your storytelling. And yes, Microsoft has what I like to call a DEI chart. It's more of a guideline, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was taken into account in-house so people can feel inclusive and safe. I mean, look at this. Alright, so check this. Research shows that players prefer to play characters that look like them and are more likely to purchase and play experiences where they align to the character's identity. That depends on the type of game, but most people play games to escape reality. So this is mostly bullshit because I want to play a big hulking man full of testosterone and armor and just fucking crush things with a hammer. That's what I like to do. I can't do that in real life. I'm not like that in real life. I wish I was. Fuck. Anyway. And then 53% of developers felt diversity and storytelling should be a priority. And it was ranked the third most important factor. And if storytelling is so important, then why are they restricting it? They're restricting it by making it more inclusive with all the DEI shit. That doesn't doesn't even make any sense. 41% of retail customers have shifted 10% or more of the business away from brands that do not reflect their value of diversity and inclusion. I wonder how they get these statistics, because it's a lot of BS. I mean, the games that have DEI don't really seem to do well. Now, granted, it's because they're bad games in general. The DEI shit doesn't help. I'm looking at you, Dragon Age the Felguard. Anyway, this is BS. Most of it's BS. It's true to some extent, but it's just not true. I miss those old days like Gears of War 3, fucking Army of 2, all that cool, full of testosterone games being made by men for men. And now it's a bunch of these fucking non-cisgendered liberal women making games, trying to be inclusive and diverse. It's just, man, I just want a good game that doesn't have any restrictions at all when it comes to story or pretty much anything. Do something risky if it has good storytelling. It's stupid. I want the Elder Scrolls to be racist as fuck. I want it to be brutal and dark in some instances. I don't want any restrictions on that shit. I want it to be immersed. I want it to be real. I am very skeptical, though. I mean, come on, man. Look at the club in Starfield. Do I really gotta say any more than that? Instead of making actual attractive-looking dancers, it's people in Teletubby suits. This is the most safest HR corporate bullshit ever, dude. How the fuck do you expect Bethesda to not do some safe shit with Elder Scrolls 6? I'm betting my life on it. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I mainly put this video together as like a little writing in a journal type of situation. Gather my thoughts and just talk. I wish nothing but the best for this game, and I know regardless on what happens, whenever Elder Scrolls 6 gets announced and showcased and everything, I will be a sucker for it. I'm absolutely gonna fall for it. I mean, it's the next entry. We haven't had a game for 15 years. How could you not? Anyway, appreciate watching the video. Y'all have a good night.